Okay, hi guys, welcome back. For anybody new here, my name is Patrice, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about why I quit my job, why I quit my career in order to work with my husband. I know, crazy, right? But you know what? What I found was that this ended up being the best thing that we could possibly do and brought about our greatest success. It wasn't easy to do, God knows, but it was certainly a worthwhile endeavor. Okay, and my goal here is to provide some takeaways, what I learned through the process in order to improve our working relationship and really make it blossom. And I'm hoping that I can share this with you. You know, if you're looking to start working together, if you're already working together, depending on how you can, you can use these ideas in so many different ways, but this is how we work together and how we've learned to improve our working relationship. So before we started working together, I was working in the film industry and I liked it very much. I really, really love this medium of storytelling. I love many mediums of storytelling, but this was certainly one of my favorites. And I loved working in it. I loved the hard work. I didn't mind the long hours. It was just, I really enjoyed it. But after we got together, I realized that in order to look after my family and actually raise my kids myself, that it was going to be very challenging to continue down this path and still be able to have the active family life that I was hoping to have. So I had to start looking in a new direction, and we looked at working together. Okay, so enter Gil, who, when we got together, was and still is running a window treatment company. Yes, that's right, window treatments. Now, why would I want to leave the film industry and work in window treatments? I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. But I did. And I'm going to tell you why. I did start trying a few things on my own that were outside of working in film. I started a music school. I was working on becoming a life coach. I had a few ideas that I was rolling with, but nothing really ever kind of took off. I don't think I really put my heart into these things fully as I needed to, as fully as I needed to. And so it kept coming back and time and time again that, I can put my energy into working with my husband. So back to window treatments. Eventually we decided, together that I would take on helping Gil manage the business. And this is what we did. I started doing that full time before we even had kids. And you know what? Our greatest success really came when we were working together. And of course, when we were working well together, we had our best years ever. And I hope that actually the best years haven't actually come yet, but to date, our best years were when we're working. Our best years have been when we were working well together. As I mentioned before in the previous video, that my husband and I we're nothing alike at all, personality types. There's just I don't even know what you could pick to say, oh yeah, we're so the same. No, we're really not. So, as you can imagine, learning to work together was not easy. And we went through a lot of ups and downs in order to figure out how to work with each other and how to help one another be our best in the working environment. This spills over into family life and everything else, but this is very particular in the work environment. So here are my 4 main lessons that I'm going to share with you that I learned when we started working together. First of all, number 1, don't take stuff so personally. Honestly, this is probably the biggest lesson for me. I'm sure it was a lesson for him too, but we're not talking about him right now. We're talking about me. So this was the lesson that I learned. And I'm still learning to learn, or I'm still learning to implement daily, like daily. Everyone's going to have bad days. We all have bad days. And I think outside of the family circle, when we're in a work environment, we're a little more removed emotionally from the circumstances. So, if your boss is giving you a hard time, a coworker's being irritable, you're just kind of like, oh, they're annoying or whatever, however you kind of take that kind of thing. But I don't think mainly for most of us, we take it to heart. But when you're sitting side by side with your husband and you're working and say, you're snapping at each other, it can become very personal very quickly. So there's a certain aspect that exists where you kind of need to remove yourself emotionally from the husband and wife dynamic and recognize that it's work and we can't take it all so personally. Of course, on the other side of that is that we can't make our bad days on the other so personal. So we also have to recognize that we can't just always lose it emotionally because we're having a bad day because you're working with your spouse. There has to be some give and take in that department. But for me, I tend to be the cooler head of the two of us, I would say, in my estimation, in my humble opinion. And so for me to deal with someone who's a little bit more hot-headed daily working is challenging. And when that person is so close to you emotionally, it's hard to kind of separate that a little bit. So don't take stuff so personally. And these bad days, let me not forget, these bad days, they can't lead to an end-all scenario. There's no bad day that is just like, well, that's it, I'm done. Because the moment I let that kind of thinking get into my brain, it makes it very easy to just kind of throw stuff aside, not, follow through, not march through to the next thing, regardless of what's going on. Oh, okay, well, that's it, I've had it. I'm done for the day. You can't have an end all because it's a bad day. We have to keep marching forward despite. Keep going. The number 2 takeaway that I learned so far is that I need to put my family first. And it's funny because I'm talking about business and work and that environment, but it actually gives the best possible perspective in how to work together and in how to maintain a good work relationship if I'm thinking I'm putting my family first. Because if I'm putting my family first, then I'm letting that dictate how I work and why I work. So, if my family is first, then I can put everything else in perspective and know how to get things done correctly and most effectively. If I'm thinking, well, what if I don't get this done? What if we don't really make what we need? What if we can't pay the rent at the end of the month because whatever I'm going through? Family first leads to everything else. And the why is a big part. Why are we doing this? We're doing this for our family, right? We want to incorporate our children into our work. We want them to learn through what we do daily. We want them to see us succeed and even fail and learn how to overcome that failure and continue to work in order to succeed even better than before. We want the freedom to travel. We want the freedom to not be married to a job, to a location. And, these are all things that incorporate the entire family. And so if that's first, then everything else can follow correctly. Okay, so number 3. Number 3 and number 4, well, they're all doozies. I think they're all really, really important points. But number 3, I think, is pretty crucial. help the other's happiness. Now, this doesn't take away from things like self-care. It's not that, I'm putting myself on the side, or I'm not looking after my own needs, or making sure that, I shower daily or get enough sleep. It is emotionally caring for my partner's happiness in order to help them be their best. If I'm helping my husband be his best, then I'm helping us all succeed. And, it can be really, really simple things. Sometimes I walk into the office and, maybe he's feeling a little stressed, maybe he's looking a little irritated. And sometimes I can just come and, put my hand on his back and just give his shoulder a little squeeze. And, can see the shoulders go down out of his neck, out of his ears for maybe even half a second, just to release whatever tension or energy. And, maybe it's not doing anything at all. Maybe it's just going in and being quiet and not really saying anything because, he needs to be in his space. And I'm sure, he can do an entire video on what he does to help me be my best in order for us to work together. But again, we're talking about what I've learned, so this is why I'm focusing on what I can do for him. So this is how I can help him be his best in order for all of us to succeed. Because if he's happy, chances are we're all going to be happy. If he's miserable, that misery is probably going to spread as well. So if I can put myself aside and help him be happy, then we can all be happy. Which brings me to number 4. Keeping my ego at bay. Sigh. That sounds like a big thing, and ego is interpreted in so many different ways and towards so many different things. But this is essentially, in my view, not letting my pride keep me from building his. And I mean this in a good way. It's not, it's not negative pride that we want to be all puffed up and full of ourselves. But to really be proud of him, but for him to be really proud of himself and to know that I am proud of him as well. And sometimes, well, I know for me, that has been a difficulty in that, it's a struggle for my pride to pump his pride, because then it takes away from my own pride. But it actually doesn't. The only thing it does is help the whole system work well. Because if I'm pumping his pride, chances are he's pumping mine. And, if I help him feel good, then I'm going to help myself feel good. If I'm looking after someone else besides myself, and again, not coming away from self-care, let's not get that confused. But if in my heart, my care is less focused on myself and it's for the others, then everything else will fall into place. Then I will know how to take care of myself in order to take care of others as well. There's no need for unnecessary power struggles. We each have our role to fulfill at home, at work, in our society at large. So if we're each fulfilling our own role, then we're completing each other and we're completing the system and we're making the whole thing work together like cogwheels, turning each other and making the whole mechanism that runs the business work well. So, he knows what he knows, I know what I know. And if we put those together correctly, we're going to build a really, really good business together and have a good, smooth transition from home life to work life to home life. And there doesn't even have to be clear-cut lines between the two, because the whole thing is the family. So the big truth is, it doesn't even matter what we're working on together. As long as we're doing it together, it will be successful. It has been, and it will continue to be. So later on in upcoming videos, we're going to talk about different aspects of all of these things and kind of break down what we do and how we work. So from us, you can expect some further videos on, deeper on how we work together and what we do and how we make that work. How I found passion for work through deepening my connection with my husband, and how our passions came to be one. Even through that connection, we found, something we love even more together. We also, like I mentioned before, homeschool our kids. So how we manage the business and other things and like life in general and have kids at home with us together, all at the same time, we'll get into all those things. Expect to fight, expect to fall, expect to fail, but always get back up again. And this is what we do, because every time we learn an immeasurable lesson and improve upon who we were before. Always, always, always get back up again. Until next.